And it's 10 a.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening. Wherever in the world you're watching from is Business Morning Live, our channel television. Great to have you join us. Let's kick off with the markets now. We see it's looking like oil prices are creeping back up this week with gains in early trade today. We saw Brent extending gains from previous 2 days as the dollar fell after the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, sounded less hawkish on interest rates than markets had expected, and the U.S. crude stocks surprisingly fell. Brent crude futures inched up by 11 cents, about 0.1% to $83.80 a barrel, adding about 3.3% gain in the previous session, while U.S. WTI crude futures advanced about 13 cents to $77.27 a barrel after jumping 4.1% in the previous session. The dollar index was down slightly at 103.29 points in early trade, extending losses after Powell's comments, making oil cheaper for those holding other currencies. We'll keep tracking those markets going forward. Now to the global grain market. We see Chicago soybean futures inched up yesterday, drawing support from stronger vegetable oil prices as participants awaited the U.S. government crop forecast for a latest gauge of South American harvest prospects. The most active soybean contract on the Chicago Board of Trade, the SV1, that was up 0.5% at $15.29 for half a bushel, while soy oil futures BOV1, that was higher, tracking strength in palm oil after Indonesia said it will suspend some export permits, while soy oil SMV1 eased as traders assessed rain forecasts for drought-affected Argentina. An International Labour Organization has projected that global unemployment would rise slightly by around 3 million to 208 million in 2023. The ILO stated this in a report, said the current slowdown means that many workers would have to accept lower quality jobs, often at very low pay, sometimes with insufficient hours. According to the report, as prices rise faster than nominal labor incomes, the cost of living crisis risks pushing more people into poverty, including millions who are being pushed below the poverty line. The United Nations agency also said this would mark a reversal of the decline in global unemployment witnessed between 2020 and 2022. And it's about 2 days to the February 10th deadline set by the Central Bank of Nigeria to stop the old 1,000 naira, 500 and 200 naira notes from being legal tender. Do remember you can send us how it's going for you if you're able to get any of the new currencies. Send us an email at businessmorning@channelcv.com and we'll share your experiences. Don't forget, the deadline is here and looks like it might be tough to actually get an extension this time. Meanwhile, the president of Manufacturers Association, Mr. Francis Mishoye, says the current naira crisis is affecting economic transactions in the country. Speaking to journalists yesterday in Lagos, Mr. Mishoye, who believes the situation is short-term, says manufacturers are feeling the impact on production. Take a listen.
You need the money to take from coke or water. I mean, I better transfer usual place to buy how much is sachet of water, 100 naira or 20 naira, I dare do that. So these are the things that really will affect the producer back end. So it's a very big issue on our economy now. So when you take all this together, you want to agree with me that we are really facing a very critical time as manufacturers now.
Welcome back. Well, it's election season right here in Nigeria. It's supposed to be a good time for players in the printing industry. And the INEC chairman did say last year that all INEC printing for both sensitive and non-sensitive materials will be printed right here in Nigeria. Well, let's gauge how far they went with that. Join us now is Mr. Malamo Olugbemi, president of the Chartered Institute of Professional Printers of Nigeria. Join us right here in the studio. It's great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And,
thank you for having me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
good
so it's election season. Obviously, it's supposed to be a good time for your industry. And, you know, we did hear the INEC chairman, you know, promising to print, you know, most of those materials right here in Nigeria. How far did that go?
Oh, first and foremost, it's a good time to be alive in Nigeria.
Right.
You know, to wake up in the midst of so many things going on and you are still surviving. So we should give great kudos to Nigerian people. Having said that, election season beyond INEC is a time for printers all over the country to be able to get a lot of job being done, which is good for us. We're happy about that. Was it better than the last time around? We don't think so. That's one, because of the economy. Then secondly, also, most of the gain we could have made, the cost of doing business is so high now, manufacturing and all that. So it's a mixed feeling. So INEC is just a small portion out of it when you look at the whole thing. So it's good to look at the whole thing holistically, then we now zero down to INEC.
So bringing INEC's business, to the industry at this time, how much is that really worth?
Yeah, that's about 43 billion. 43 billion naira. There are three levels of printing. The ballot paper, I think 20.6 billion. You have the non-sensitive material, that's another 12.7 billion. Then you have the resource sheet, 9 point something. All in all, 43 billion. So 43 billion to Nigeria economy, into the printing economy. What do we expect? We expect a very significant change. We expect a lot of people smiling, a lot of business being rejuvenated. But is that the what we got? That's another thing entirely. That's another thing entirely. But we must give kudos to INEC. We had useful discussion, unlike before. We had useful discussion to a certain level. They did promise that they are going to do all the printing in Nigeria. I don't think so. They didn't do that. Even in our meeting with them, they did allude that we may do it, we may not do it, and all that, depending on the circumstance. By and large, more of our people participated in the production. More of our people. The level to which they participate is another thing entirely.
What's the attraction for printing overseas?
Corruption. Simple. Nothing more. Corruption.
So we do have issues, here in Nigeria. Obviously, there's power and all of that, and capacity. Is there enough capacity for the industry to handle some of these, most of these printing jobs? When
I started, I commended the Nigerian people, the Nigerian spirit. In spite of what we're having, we're still here in Nigeria. So, the best way we can solve our problem is sit down together and look at what we will do. So when we talk about capacity, do we have capacity? I can tell you 100% that the Nigerian printing industry, we have capacity. Now, mind you, capacity is a factor of time. This time around, we amended our electoral act that gave us more time to be able to print. So there's no reason why INEC will come and say we don't have capacity. We do have capacity. But by and large, we're in a very sensitive period. We shouldn't eat up the polity. Whatever needs to be done has been done. But after that, we are going to look at a post-election dissection. We can't just say, oh, we've done this. So how far have we gone? So we are looking at a situation whereby after the election, even if we have to, I've said it before, go to court or invoke the Freedom of Information Bill, who are the people that got this job? Who are the people that got it? How did it translate to the economy? Or is it going to private pocket and all that? I think if we are going to develop as a country, those are questions we should be asking.
Because I'm wondering how you actually gauge, who gets what. How do you know when the jobs are actually done here or, taken outside our shores? How do you know who's getting the jobs?
Okay, that's very interesting. It's a process. It's a process. 4 years ago, we're not even getting the kind of level of information we're getting now. We're not even getting engagement. Now we're getting engagement. That means we've moved from one level to another. Now, the whole thing is shrouded in, I don't want to say secrecy. It's shrouded in kind of secrecy. I give it to INEC. They are independent, but their independence cannot, when you consider the holistically Nigeria, you are the electoral umpire, you want to bring good governance to the nation, the first thing you should do is you should live by good moral ethics. So if our electoral umpire, and I'm not saying they are not showing good morals, then what are we going to get? In the things that has to do with their procurement. So their procurement has to be fair. Their procurement has to be transparent. To what level are these things transparent? You're not going to tell me that, yes, I recognize the fact that it's a security printing. And in security printing, particularly for elections like this, there are so many things you should not disclose. Fine. So post-election, there shouldn't be any reason why we should not be able to know who are the people that, that did this job. So that for posterity, we can look at what we need to do again. We are not going to build a nation if at every point we run abroad. They don't do that abroad. If they do that, they are not going to have a country.
And aside the economy, what are the risks are there, printing most of these materials outside our shores?
So many risks. The world economy is being affected by so many things. Anything can happen. A year ago, Ukraine never knew that there's going to be war. So the world economy is so volatile. So if you go out, you want to bring in the logistic of bringing all those things in very huge, very, very huge, and something disrupted. We've had that in the past. If you record in the last election was postponed. Up to today, we don't have an official paper that will tell us, or investigation that tells us the reason why the election was postponed. And INEC will tell you one thing: we have idea of what actually happened, why that election was postponed. And until we are proven wrong, it's because some of those materials were printed abroad and we couldn't meet the logistics. So that's it.
All right, let's look at the industry as a whole now. Let's look at performance, say in 2022. Obviously, that was a tough year for a lot of industries and major economies globally. How did your industry fare in 2022?
Yeah, we're trying to recover from the COVID. We came up with post-COVID priority for our industry. So we look at it holistically. What can we do? How can we cushion the effect of what is happening all over the world? So we decided that we came up with some campaign, let Nigerian printing job remain in Nigeria. If all our job that people take outside of the shore of the country to print, if we're able to do it locally, then the effect of COVID will actually be cushioned. So that's why we set up a lot of campaign. Yeah, we made on traction with INEC. There are still a lot of other government agencies like UBEC that prints abroad. If we're able to get all that one sorted out, things will be better. Then the second part of the campaign again is that let printing job be for printers. Printing is a very, very capital intensive business. So if I invest millions of dollars, and I mean millions of dollars, and I can't get patronage, we're not going to have an industry. So basically, those are the things we came up with. Have we had cooperation with government to a large extent? Yes. Even we try to also solve our problem. Paper is a big issue. We don't produce paper in Nigeria. So we partner with Ministry of Trade and Investment and Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Lagos Chamber of Commerce to organize a paper summit. Let's actually look at what is happening in our paper industry. What can we do? Let's have a long-term, mid-term plan and short-term plan of what we can do to actually produce paper in Nigeria. So we did that. But basically, we need support of government. For instance, SIPON, we are under Ministry of Trade, we're under Ministry of Information. We are completely disconnected from them. They don't even understand what we stand for. And I ask myself, we are more of a manufacturing industry than an information industry. So we're there, we couldn't see the minister. The minister could not be bothered about what is happening in our industry. Every time we go there, it's a tough situation. And mind you, this is an industry that is capable of employing millions of Nigerians in its entire value chain. Government need to pay attention even to industries that are perceived as low level, like us. Because if you don't keep people busy, automatically they will turn out to be something else. And you have to use a lot of money to stop them from being what they are turned out to be.
All right, what other risks do you see ahead for this industry in 2023? And I do know that social media, seems to be some kind of competitor to your industry, because we know some of these businesses are also going online, and offline might get, threatened at this time.
Okay, by the way, we are in it together. It's not only printing that is strengthening, your industry is strengthening too. But a lot of people,
We're all threatened.
Exactly.
Artificial intelligence.
So when we look at this, government has a responsibility. Number one, forget about the urge to be able to say we want to catch up with the rest of the world. Why are you catching up with the rest of the world? Where are you? You want to break your leg? You know, how are you going to catch up? So government need to find a way of slowing down dematerialization. That's one. Don't just say, oh, this is how they are doing it abroad. Abroad, they are more organized. They are more organized. They know who are involved in this thing. They know that if there's a disruption, they know what can happen. They've done a stimulation test. Here, we've not done anything. We just want to copy. So government need to do as much as possible to slow down on dematerialization. Good. We have the peculiarity of labor here is a bit cheap and all that and all that. That's one. Number two, printing is not going to die. It will never die. It's only going to evolve. If you look at our agriculture is evolving in Nigeria. So as agriculture is evolving, you're talking about packaging, you're talking about all that. All those ones will continue to grow. So some sector will grow, some sector will reduce. But basically, printing is not going to die.
And obviously, with central bankers globally, battling inflation at this time, they're raising rates, and we're expecting rates, to go higher in 2023. And your industry is quite, capital intensive. Are you feeling the pinch of cost of funds at the moment?
You see, we only have one industry in Nigeria, one viable industry, and that's the banking industry. That's the only viable industry. When you look at Nigeria and compare it to global economy or manufacturing and all that, and you look at the cost of fund, you realize that we're a country that is open to be raped. Let me explain. So if you want to get funding, even in some area in Africa, across Africa, you get it at 5%. Morocco and all that. In Europe, you can't be talking about more than 5%. You have a long-term repayment plan. But here in Nigeria, you're talking about 30%. So how are we going to survive? Do we make 30% from what we do? No. So it's not, you don't need any rocket science to tell you that the industry is going to die. So government need to look at, create an equilibrium. Create an equilibrium. You intentionally look at banks. If banks are making such amount of money, what do we need to do? Do we need to even go out of the banking system to fund all this? The bureaucracy of bank and all that. Do we need to go out of the banking system? People, I mentioned rape. Other country send their national to Nigeria, empower them with a lot of money, and they take our job away and we are helpless. So government need to create an enabling environment and create an equilibrium where the big fish can survive, they should survive, and the fries, the small fish too, must coexist.
Oh yes.
And we're not doing that.
The small fish.
Yeah, everybody must coexist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously we're getting a new CEO soon for Nigeria since his election season. What do you want to see policy-wise for your industry?
It's foolhardy to think a single person can solve the problem of Nigeria. And the kind of, I look at it, I'm a deep thinker. The kind of attention we Nigeria put into electing somebody and the kind of pressure we put on them, if we put the same attention into ensuring that they govern well, we'll get better results. We'll get better results. We have a structure that is so overwhelming. So I'm not too optimistic. Not about the transition. We're going to have a new CEO. But basically, one, you need to solve energy problem. And in my head, I play like the president of Nigeria. I have 2, 3, 5 things I will do and I will solve the problem. And I keep playing it over my head and like that. So when I ask myself, why are they not doing it? We need somebody that has the will. Leadership is not a popularity contest. You can't say you want to affect governance and you are very popular. That means you are not doing anything. You have to take tough decisions. You have to take decisions that will affect a lot of people that you know. But you have to have a clear-cut goal. Do we have people that have such a will? Now, taking tough decisions doesn't mean that, like this kind of policy we are having, you also have the tendency if you see that your policies are not working, you find a way to cushion it. But in Nigeria will fight any policy. Nigeria will fight. People that are benefiting from that policy will fight it. So you need to have an understanding of governance. You can't just be a rookie and come in and say you want to be president of Nigeria. Not last 3 months.
And obviously, the next CEO has a lot of work to do, seeing where we are with the economy right now. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Malmo, President CPON. Thank you for your time today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a moment now. When we come back, we'll head on to the markets. Just stay with us. Back watching Business Morning live on Channels Television. Let's head on to the markets now. For the local bourse, we did get that bearish close yesterday. We have Aniete now with the details, 0.13% down. That's what we had.
Good morning, Ladi.
Good morning, Aniete.
Yeah, the market has seen its very first decline after 6 consecutive days of a bullish run.
6 days, I'm sure there's no need to panic.
No. It's not any need to panic. I'm sure if you're one of the investors in the market,
I want to take some profit off the table, of course.
And with more than 100 equities, over 120 if I have not lost count, are listed on the NGX. So that's why some of the investors there decided to take profit, and that's particularly on the banking stocks. Some of the banking stocks were hit by the impact of sell pressure, and then at the same time the market
has nothing to do with the whole swap
not really with the market. Yeah. But at the same time, the major reason why the market was down was because of Dangote Cement. That's the exchanges in between 1 and number 2 most capitalized equity. So it went down by about 0.71% at the close of Tuesday's trading session. Then as also Geregu also contributed to the market's pullback at the close of Tuesday's trading session. So not just the banks, but quite a long list.
All right.
Yeah. So So now, 37 billion naira is what was knocked off from the previous 81 billion naira gain that we saw on the market's capitalization of the Nigerian exchange, just when we were counting to whether the market would increase, the market's total value would increase to about 30 billion naira. What we saw previously was higher than this, but what at the close of Tuesday's trading session, 29.575 trillion naira is what the market ended the day. It was down by 37 billion naira, as you can see on the board there. Then for the gauge of the market's performance, it was down by 0.13%, but still very comfortable within the 54,000 level, which it had crossed into back around last week, Friday. So now that's for the market. But in terms of the sectoral performance, as you can see, the reds have it. 4 out of the 5 major counters that we track were in the red. No thanks to profit taking by investors, and of course it's not their fault. You got to put your money where your mouth is. So for the banking sector, it was down more than 0.5%, 0.61%. For the insurance sector, it was down by 0.80%, almost about 1%. But we saw the oil and gas counter being the lone gainer there, and that's thanks to Oando and Corner, which managed to mitigate the losses from the likes of Adova, which at the close of Tuesday's session, there was an announcement that the Adova plans to delist from the Nigerian exchange, and this comes amidst some reports that we have a core investor who is making a bid of more than 16 billion naira for the takeover of that company. So that news is out. That's one of the corporate news that's been released so far this week. Now, in terms of the activity chart, as you can see there, the volume of transactions, the volume of shares traded there, in contrast to what we had on Monday, it was up by 4.38%. 200.03 million units of shares were traded for Tuesday. And the value was also up in contrast to what you had on Monday, 58.84% at 7.62 billion naira. Now, in terms of the deals is also in the green. The greens have it there, 0.48% at 4,380 deals. That's what the market turned out for Tuesday. So now we will be expecting that the market is supposed to be greeted by a flurry of earnings. It's still earnings season, particularly for the fourth quarter and the full year of 2022. And of course, we'll be expecting that the announcements of dividends by some companies would be able to make the markets to make some rebound for as the days go by. Now, before we move over to the fixed income market, we'll be having our guests to talk about today's primary market auction. That's Sadiq Safiriu, who is an investment research analyst at Meristem Securities, to talk to us about what's going on at the fixed income market as we speak. Thank you for joining us, Sadiq.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Yeah. Okay, so now, before I let you have your analysis, the bonds market, as at yesterday, it closed bullish, and that's because we saw buying interest on the March 2024, as well as some other instruments there. While the Treasury bills market, it was quiet. That's because investors there, participants, you know, they're on the sideline on the anticipation of today's Treasury market auction. And then for the OMO market, average yield there is close flat. So can you tell us what's going on at the market as we speak?
All right, thank you very much again for the question. So, as you rightly mentioned, we saw that bullish sentiment in the bonds market yesterday, and that was majorly driven by, you know, an inclusion or an increase in the system liquidity. So coming from, you know, last week, we were seeing that the system liquidity and interbank liquidity was relatively tighter. But, you know, for yesterday, we saw that boost again in the liquidity of about we have about 418 billion in the system. So, you know, that, you know, for it not to just stay around, that was the reason why we now saw increased buying activities in the bonds market. And for the T-bills market, yeah, you rightly said that, you know, the investors are playing sideways, trying to wait for what the auction today would do. You know, we've had several factors that played in recent times that have driven investor sentiment really. And then, you know, they're just trying to wait. In previous auctions, we've seen that, you know, rates have really declined. We now have 91D at 0.29%. So yeah, investors are trying to, you know, take position, just trying to reason out what exactly the primary market auction today would look like for them.
Okay, so now we've talked about the fixed income market, and of course there's always a correlation between the fixed income market and the equities market. We saw the pullback on the equities market. So now are investors going much more into the fixed income market? Maybe that's anything to go by?
Okay, I think it is rather too early to tell whether, you know, investors are now ditching stocks for the fixed income market. You know, it's rather too early to say, because looking at factors that are really playing out in the fixed income market, we have rates, as I mentioned earlier, rates at the last T-bills auction in January were still very low. That is not very attractive for investors really to say that they want to move from equities to the fixed income market. So equities, as at year to date, yesterday was still doing, you know, approximately 6%. So for me, I believe that the equities market, the sentiment really was more of profit taking, as you mentioned rightly in your analysis. You know, it was mainly profit taking for tickers that have really gained so far during the years. During this year 2023, we've seen that activity taken on banking tickers. You know, the banking index closed January as the top sectoral index in the month. So, you know, investors are now taking profit. And like we saw that activity on FCMB, we saw it on Fidelity. You know, investors are now they decided to take profit on stocks that have really appreciated this year.
Okay, thank you so much, Sadiq Safiriu, investment research analyst at Meristem Securities Limited. So, Ladi, for the market, it's for the equities market is a slight pullback, as well as the unlisted securities market, another pullback for that market.
Well, we'll be looking out for today's close. Hopefully, no more pullbacks.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Anita. That was Anita there giving us the details for the market. Now, let's head on to the UK. We hear that President Zelensky is paying a surprise visit to the UK today. Let's head on to our London studios now. We have Juliana right there. Good morning, Juliana. Why is Ukraine's president visiting the UK at this time?
Good morning, Laddie. Yes, as you said, we got some surprise breaking news this morning that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is to be in London imminently. He is going to be holding a series of closed-door meetings with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and we're expecting at some point this afternoon for him to address parliamentarians live in the Palace of Westminster. You ask why he's here, and I think really it is to show that Britain remains a staunch ally. Successive prime ministers have visited Kyiv since the onset of the illegal invasion, which is almost a year. On February the 24th, of course, Boris Johnson was a key ally, not just of the Ukrainian president, but he seemed to have formed a very close bond and friendship with Volodymyr Zelensky. In fact, he was made a citizen just a couple of weeks ago. Then, of course, we had Liz Truss in office for about 6 weeks. She made sure she visited Kyiv, and then Rishi Sunak has also been there. I think worth noting that, of course, this is a very highly secured visit, so all of the details at the moment in terms of times and locations, apart from the address in Parliament, hasn't been disclosed to the media. We know that since, I believe, 2014, Britain has been critical in making sure that Ukrainian troops are trained and ready for battle, and this started since the annexation of Crimea. It's been beefed up since the invasion last year, and what we're expecting today is for the Prime Minister to announce some significant improvements in the training of Ukrainian troops, and even perhaps further money to assist them with aid. There was an address by Volodymyr Zelensky to parliamentarians in March last year. This was obviously done via a virtual link. So yes, it's very, very rare for any foreign dignitary to address parliamentarians in London live in the House of Commons. But considering the significant issues that the war in Ukraine has caused upon Britons, of course, the Prime Minister feels that it is the right time.
Right, we'll definitely be tracking the outcome of that address. And talking about the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, we did get information he's reshuffling his cabinet. Any idea who's in or out?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There was a reshuffling yesterday, some people would say it was to mark last week's 100th day in office for the Prime Minister, who has become pretty much embattled. His approval ratings are at an all-time low, although I think the British public are starting to have a bit of distaste about these ongoing strikes, which don't appear to be going anywhere. There doesn't appear to be any end in sight at the moment. There were two scathing editorials over the weekend, one by Boris Johnson and one by Liz Truss, really targeting Rishi Sunak. Of course, they've got very strong allies within the Conservative Party and possibly within the cabinet, which is why we've had this reshuffling. Major names. Greg Hands is now going to be the Conservative Party chairman. This follows the ousting of Nadeem Zahawi over tax offences. And then Kemi Badenoch, friend of the show, British and Nigerian. She's actually received a promotion, which is fantastic for women of colour and for her. She has gone from being the International Trade Secretary to overseeing the business department, which is absolutely huge, a big, big win for Nigeria. And also there's been some shuffling with Grant Shapps. He was the Transport Secretary. He was the Business Secretary, briefly Chancellor, briefly Home Secretary. He is now going to be, I believe, overseeing the Energy Department. So lots of shuffling around to try and keep the Conservative Party in power. Is it going to, be fruitful? We shall just have to wait and see. Those famous last words, Laddie.
Wait and see. Wait and see. All right. Thank you so much, Juliana. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was Juliana there giving us the details from the UK. Well, we're going to head on to the FX commodities market. That's in a moment. We'll take a breather now. Welcome back. Now for the FX commodities market update. Let's get a sense of how your money performed on the exchange. Joining us now is Omotola Akangbe. That's a market data and research analyst at FX. Good morning. Great to have you, Omotola.
Good morning. Great to be here again this morning.
So tell us how the market performed for the week ended.
So we saw a bearish trend across our key indicators. There was a decline of about 18% in our total turnover, declining from about 6 billion naira to close at about 4.9 billion naira. We also saw a decline of about 22% in the volumes of contract traded, declining from 15 million contracts to close the week at about 12 million contracts. We also saw a decline of about 28% in number of deals traded, moving deals from 246 deals closed to 177 deals closed. Across the FX commodity index, we saw a decline of about 3.2%, moving the index point from 504 index points to close the week at 488 index points. The FX export index also saw a decline of about 4.6%, declining from 244 index points to close the week at 233 index points. Across volumes of contract traded, week on week, we saw an increase in the volume of soybean, sorghum, and cocoa traded. Across our price, we saw an increase of 2.11% in the price of soybean, closing the week at 350 naira per kobo. We also saw a marginal increase of 0.99% in the price of cocoa to close the week at 1,917.41 naira. Sesame topped the laggard chart, declining by 13% to close the week at 1,100 naira per kilogram, followed closely by paddy rice, which declined by 3.14% to close the week at 317.60 naira. Maize and cashew nut also declined during the week. For more information about our commodities, kindly visit our website at africaexchange.com, and to join our trading platform, you can download COMEX on Play Store or the Apple Store.
All right, thank you for that update. That was Omotola Akongwe, the analyst, market data and research at AFEX. Thank you. All right, let's take the conversation further now. We see high rates of inflation, rising geopolitical risk, and excessive market volatility characterized 2022. Against the backdrop, commodities market alternatives delivered exactly what investors expected. But we'll take a quick break now. We'll come back. We continue the conversation. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning live on Channel Television. Well, we have some breaking news now. We see the Supreme Court of Nigeria has restrained the federal government from implementing the February 10th deadline for the old 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes to stop being a legal tender. Three northern states of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara had an motion ex parte filed on February 3rd, prayed the Apex Court to halt the Central Bank of Nigeria Naira redesign policy. A seven-man panel of the Supreme Court, led by Justice John Okoro, in a unanimous ruling, granted an interim injunction restraining the federal government, CBN, commercial banks, and others from implementing the February 10th deadline for the old 200, 500, 1,000 naira notes to start being legal tender. The court further held that the federal government and the CBN must not continue with the deadline pending the determination of a notice on respect of the issue on February 15th. By this ruling, the old naira notes continue to be legal tender in Nigeria. That's breaking news reaching us right now. Well, let's continue the conversation now with AFEX there. We see it's all about volatility right now in the markets, and obviously commodities market did do well in 2022. Let's see what's to come for 2023. Joining us now is Zara Dogo, head market growth at AFEX. Great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
So according to reports, the alternative market soared high in the past year. Is there any reason why this class performed better than the conventional market in 2022?
So the central thing that we saw play out in 2022 was that central banks had a hawkish stance due to the effects of inflation across different economies all across the world. And it's been proven so far that there's a strong correlation between inflation and the returns on alternative instruments. And particularly with the commodities market, there's also a strong correlation between the prices of commodities and exchange rate depreciation. So coming down to Nigeria, we saw inflation on the rise all through the year, as well as the depreciation of the naira. And so what we saw as a result of that was the prices of commodities rising. And that affects commodity index, and that closed the year at 4% compared to the all-share index that did 21 to 22%. And that was the second best performing equities market around the world. So once you look at what the equities market did in comparison to what the ACI did, you can see that the commodities market definitely outperformed this year.
And are there any commodity market risk investors should look out for in 2023 regarding alternative investments?
So as we like to point out whenever we're speaking to investors or generally in the investment landscape, it is very critical for investors to evaluate their risk-return profile before diving into any investment. And just looking at the commodities market in particular, there is the element of price risk, mainly because there's a fluctuation in the prices of these commodities on a day-to-day basis. So it is critical for investors to have a fundamental understanding of the prices of these commodities. And how AFEX is able to mitigate against that risk is that we provide daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly reports to aid the understanding of investors. We had our outlook about 2 weeks ago, where we critically analyzed the market last year, and we also spoke extensively on the factors that would affect the commodities market this year. So price risk is a factor, but we put in all of these mitigants in place to aid investors with their investments. And also speaking on price risk, we've been able to come up with products that are able to curb this risk, such as fixed income instruments that allow you to enter the market or buy into this product at a fixed price for a fixed period of time.
All right, in comparison to 2022, do you think we'll have more investors in the alternative investment market? And why do you think this will happen?
So 2022, we saw a lot of investors play in the market. From the first question that I answered, I spoke about how inflation has been, it's been a factor that is affecting not just Nigeria, but the global space. And then with the depreciation of the naira, we've seen retail investors as well as capital market operators looking for the best way to diversify their portfolio. And commodities-linked instruments gives you that option to diversify your portfolio and hedge against risk. So, I mean, the alternative space is definitely a good place for anyone to take advantage of or buy into the opportunities that are available here.
And talking about opportunities, what other alternative investment opportunities are available for investors to take advantage in 2023?
For you to take advantage of the alternate space, you need to understand the instruments that are available within this market. And that includes commodities, derivatives contracts, we have hedge funds, private equity, as well as arts and antiques. But I will be speaking on the commodity space because that is what we do at AFEX. And we have different products that investors can play into depending on your risk appetite. So if you're looking for high risk, high return, we have products such as the spot contracts and the exchange traded commodity. And just speaking to the exchange traded commodity, we had it run its course last year for 9 months from about January up until September, and it did a return of about 31%, which outperform both inflation and uncertainties when we look at the naira. So this year, that was open in January. It's closed now, but investors are able to play in the sports market. And for investors who are more risk averse, we have fixed income instruments that they can buy into. And once you think FX, you think agricultural commodities, but we are also expanding our array of products into hard commodities such as gold. So we have gold available at least before the end of Q2 this year, so allowing for investors to expand their appetite into the different products that we have on the exchange. We also have derivatives contracts, which we are working extensively to have available also before the end of Q2 on the exchange. So we see a lot of opportunity this year in the market. I mean, commodities, the gospel of commodities is going far and wide, and now more than ever before, there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the appreciation or depreciation of the naira. So I believe that with all of the products that I have just mentioned, investors can come into this space and invest.
All right, I guess investors will be looking out for all of that. Thank you so much, Zara Dogo, Head Market Growth, AFEX. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And talking about the markets now, let's look at other markets like risk assets there. See, the crypto space there, 58 points, greed, talking about the sentiment in the market now. So we're still seeing some bullish sentiment in this market, even though we had that pullback earlier. Let's bring in my guest now, Success Chibike, bring us up to speed on what's happening. Hello, Success. Great to have you.
Yeah, good morning.
So majority of altcoins in the crypto market have rallied a lot from January till now, but it looks like Bitcoin and Ethereum can't really match the rallies, you know, these altcoins have had. Is that a risk for the altcoin season?
Okay, January has historically been a good month for cryptocurrencies. For now, the market appears to be in a transition phase from the last stages of a bearish market to the beginning of a new cycle. So, but in general, I think it still remains difficult for Bitcoin and altcoin, looking at 2015 and 2019 as key examples here.
And obviously there's
this is very good for some altcoins.
Yeah, you can continue, carry on.
Example, okay, this is very good for some altcoins. Example, the AI tokens and the liquid derivative. But in my option, the market is stagnant and these coins will continue to perform well.
And obviously, you know, we've seen that AI movement right now with most of those AI projects doing really well in the crypto space right now. But do you think they really have a sellable product, talking about the AI projects in the crypto market?
Okay, yeah, after the release of ChatGPT, there has been more and more talks about AI tokens, and we began to see how coins related to these projects began to do very well. For example, Fetch and Ajax, in the last months, they have done over 500% increase. So this is where the money is currently flowing into, and I think these AI tokens can outperform the NFTs, the DeFi, and Layer 1 and Metaverse. So based on the potential of ChatGPT, I think in the future, these AIs will be able to connect directly with the blockchain and enable users spend and invest cryptocurrency using AI. So about some use cases of these AI tokens, we have Ajax, which is an AI token for a decentralized marketplace where you can sell and buy AI-related goods and services. We also have Fetch, which enables us to build infrastructures for AI-related projects. We have numbers of them, like AI-generated images and a very lot. So in my opinion, I think this industry is sellable and will strive further as more companies and projects begin to spring up. Although the market size of these AI tokens are relatively still small at around $1.6 billion, because it's still a very new industry. But I'm hoping that with the success of Microsoft's investments into OpenAI and the rumored Google investments into a ChatGPT rival last week, I hope to see how these AI integrations and cryptocurrencies work together to change the world we live in.
All right, I guess 2023 is all about AI. We'll keep tracking to see how it plays out in this market. Thank you so much. Success, Chibike. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, so it's looking quite bullish in the market, the crypto space there. We see the market cap, they're adding about 1.82%. So we're seeing bullish sentiment. We'll see how that plays out at the end as trade continues into the weekend. All right, that's the market today, and that's the show. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 on Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. You can watch this again on our YouTube channel. Just flip over to YouTube, search for Channels Television, flip to the videos. You can watch all our productions. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Enjoy your day.